This is the old depot. Now it's the Welcome Center here, and Warm Springs welcomes you to town. Hey everybody, it got real chilly here in Georgia overnight. A little bit breezy, a little bit windy, but I wanted to bring you out here to Warm Springs, Georgia. The history here in Warm Springs is that the Creek Nation made this their home for many, many years, and this is out in Meriwether County, Georgia. And Warm Springs became popular because of the very warm springs. They run at 88 degrees, and the Native Americans thought that that was healing and spiritual, and they frequented the waters on a daily basis because they thought that this was a very special place. Up on Pine Mountain, which is this direction back up the hill, there are still native tree markers, and we're going to get to those later on this week and do a whole episode about the Native American tree markers. Now, this was founded in 1906 by Stephen Bullock, 1806 by Stephen Bullock. It was first called Bullockville, and here it is up the street. You can see what is now Warm Springs. Franklin Delano Roosevelt found the springs to be healing, and he came here starting in the 1920s. And then he built himself a cabin right here in Warm Springs, which is also right down the street. It's known as the Little White House, a great attraction if you want to get there. Now, a lot of folks came here escaping yellow fever, and they would come here because of the mineral springs that were frequently 88 degrees. In 1921, after Franklin Delano Roosevelt contracted polio, he lost most of the use of his legs, and he came to the springs himself for the healing powers. He was here, visited frequently for over 20 years. So here is what the resort looked like from the famous Warm Springs pool. Now, right behind me, this is where I want to focus on. This is the Warm Springs Hotel. Now, the Warm Springs Hotel first began in early 1900. It was built in 1906, and now it is run by Jerry Thompson. And here we are in front of the hotel. Now, originally it was named the Hotel Tuscawillow. Tuscawillow was the name of a Creek princess. And this is the hotel now. Across the street is the Bullock House, very popular restaurant, and here is downtown Warm Springs. Now, like I said, when Miss Jerry was painting those pineapples that you can see in the lobby, someone asked her if it was haunted, and she said, "I don't know about any haints here, but if one shows up, I'm going to give them a paintbrush and put them to work." Now, some of the history of the hotel is included in my most recent book called Stirring Spirits. And if you'd like, I would like to read you part of that book. So we're here at the Warm Springs Hotel, and we're going to get inside in just a few minutes. That is the plan. But what I'd like to do is read you a little excerpt from the latest book called Stirring Spirits. This hotel is part of the book, and Miss Jerry was interviewed last year about that. Now, Jerry is happy to share the stories of the sordid events that could cause guests to believe there were lingering spirits here at the hotel. "I can tell you some stuff that would make you laugh like crazy," she says. It seems a gruesome double murder occurred here at the hotel when it was owned by another Thompson family. To bolster the family's income, Mr. Thompson delivered parcels from trains to trains, and the depot is right there. We'll show you a picture of that in a minute. During those years, Mr. Bullock ran a pharmacy from within the hotel. He was also known to have poker games, and he also kept a fancy woman in the room, but he could also be heard beating her quite frequently. The innkeeper at that time warned him of this drunken behavior would not be tolerated, but on one particularly hot Georgia summer day in 1915, the whole situation escalated. Thompson returned from his duties to have lunch, but when he sat with his wife, who was very pregnant with their sixth child, she told him that the pharmacist was up to trouble again. We are getting inside. Let's go in. Thank you. We'll just take a quick walk through.
We're just trying to get everything opened up and together, and
Yep.
I had breakfast this morning.
Oh boy.
Had to clean up from that. Excuse me just a minute.
There are the pineapples that Miss Jerry was working on. Somebody asked her about ghosts, and she said she was going to put a ghost to work if she saw a ghost.
That's right.
That's what you told me.
Plenty they can do.
Yeah, they got lots of work they can do. And this is the little ice cream parlor. So cool. And FDR did visit here. And here's a little tribute to FDR on the wall. Come here and visit. You can spend the night. Miss Jerry will cook you breakfast. She's famous for her cheesy grits. And you can also get ice cream and fudge. Everybody loves ice cream and fudge. We're going to take a quick walk through with you guys. I'm just going to walk through the gift shop area real quick, just to get a look at the hotel here.
Could probably get Caleb to let you into 106. You might find it interesting.
Okay.
Let me turn on some lights for
Oh, okay. Thank you, dear.
you.
Got a lot of memorabilia in here. She has got some wonderful things. The check-in area hasn't changed a bit. From when Secret Service would stay here when FDR was in town.
This is where they stay.
Mm-hmm. Also, the King and Queen of Spain have stayed here.
President Osman of the Philippines.
The President of the Philippines, Betty Davis.
And Danny Thomas.
Ooh,
Margaret
Danny Thomas.
Miller,
Really?
Janet Leigh. All the
Janet
secret-
Leigh, wow.
All the Secret Service and all the press, as the news media was called.
Now, Janet Leigh, the reason people would know her nowadays, everybody knows her daughter, Jamie Leigh Curtis from Halloween. That's all the craze this month. But her mother stayed
Yeah,
here.
she was married. Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one that came and stayed here.
Yeah. Janet Leigh.
Not the daughter.
No, not the daughter. Set up as a gift shop downstairs here. What would have been the old dining hall back in the
All
day?
this,
Would have all been the dining
yeah,
hall.
these rooms.
And this is where supposedly the man, which the owner was shot.
Right back toward the back. But all of that back was laundry room and, let's see, laundry room, storage rooms, kitchen.
Kitchen.
I knew, I just couldn't think. He had this poker game one night, kept everybody awake, got mad at the woman, slapped her around, and Mr. Thompson delivered, let me show you this, delivered things out into the countryside.
Right,
I
right.
tell everybody he was our first UPS man.
That's funny.
And Mr. Thompson always carried a gun because he was, that's his mule and wagon.
Ah.
And because he was always out in the countryside, never knowing what might happen, he always carried a gun. He had a big man, Big John. Mr. Thompson had already gone to make deliveries, and his wife was pregnant with the 5th child, and she was going to let the woman out of the room because she was screaming and everything. And Mr. Bullock came out of the it was a pharmacy drugstore then, and he threatened her, and she was pregnant with their 5th child. So when Mr. Thompson came in for lunch that day, she told him about it. So he went in and told Mr. Bullock to go pack that woman up, get her out. You're not gonna have a room here anymore, no more poker games. You can keep your drugstore. So then Mr. Thompson goes to the back and sit down to eat dinner or lunch. Of course, they call that dinner, then
Back
the
in that,
later meal was
yeah.
supper. And his niece, who was a waitress and her mother ran the kitchen, who was Mr. Thompson's wife's sister and niece. And so Mr. Bullock, evidently you didn't tell him what to do. He went into the drugstore here. He got his gun, his pistol, out of the cash register. Now, one of his aunts told me this, or somebody in the family. She told me he was a black sheep of the family.
Oh.
And he went back into the dining room and point blank shot him. And so Mr. Thompson, because he was all out in the countryside and everything, he always carried a gun with him. Well, his niece held him up and he shot Mr. Bullock. Mr. Thompson died immediately and Mr. Bullock died a few days later.
Incredible.
So
Incredible.
that's the whole
So
way
some
I've been
people may
told.
think that those spirits are here, but who knows? Another story about this hotel is that the owners brought in a woman whose husband had died, and she was quite distraught. And she wouldn't come out of her room, stayed in her room in her nightgown. But she was so distraught over losing her husband that one day she jumped from one of the 3rd-story windows to her death. There was an occasion when the innkeeper came across a man sitting on her steps, and he approached her and said, "Do you think that there's someone haunting your garden area?" And she asked, why did he say that? And he told her that he saw a woman in a nightgown wandering in the gardens. And these are the 3rd-story windows from which the woman jumped. Quick little tour of the town. Lots of little shops. They decorate real nicely here for the season, and it will also be real pretty here for Christmas time as well, for the holidays.